Welcome, everyone. I'm Tilde. In a world that seems to be saturated with chaos and crisis, I wanted to create some good news and show how there are still many good people doing great things and actually being the change that we want to see in the world. My guest today is Farahana Kassam, founder of the Flaunt Flat Revolution, breast cancer survivor, patient advocate, and children's book author, speaker, mindfulness coach, conscious dying coach, end of life doula, and Reiki practitioner. I met Farhana just a few months ago and became friends fast and furious and love what she's doing. And so thank you so much for being here, Farhana.
Yeah, Kelly, thanks so much for having me here. And I think the way we met was just universally so beautifully aligned. So I'm so happy that we are here today and we can chit chat a little bit more for our listeners.
Yeah, well, I love it too because, we often use phrases like they just popped into my life, and you literally did just walk into my life, and we walked into each other's lives. And I love how, the divine always works out with divine timing, divine connections, divine introductions. And so I really appreciate everything that you do and um, and who you are. So tell us a little bit about Flaunt Flat and your story.
Yeah, so Flaunt Flat Revolution has been such a beautiful gift. It's an official 501(c)(3) that I registered last year here in Dallas. But it came about as a result of my journey going through breast cancer, not once, but twice. And, back in 2020, when I was diagnosed, I don't think I would have ever guessed that their journey would come to where we are today. So I'm eager and curious and open to see where it will continue to unfold. But so far, it has been such a beautiful journey and it's inspired me, and in being inspired through cancer, I'm open and really wanting to inspire other people because I think more stories need to be told. Um, Survivorship stories that offer help and hope and support. So, yeah, I'm glad here to be on this journey. But yeah, so Flaunt Flat Revolution, our mission is to empower patients who are going through breast cancer or think they might be at high risk of going through breast cancer because they might have the gene. But we inspire them to truly understand what all their options are for breast surgery and feel empowered in that choice and being able to provide them with information so that they understand what all options are before they can actually make an informed choice that feels right for their bodies. And why flaunt flat? It's really because I opted to stay flat, having gone through a double mastectomy. And flat as an option is not something you really hear about from the breast surgeons, from plastic surgeons. But to come to realize that there's this entire movement, this entire revolution, this entire community of flatties that exist now I can say internationally is such a beautiful, way of seeing support that you need to find community. And yeah, so Flat Revolution is very much a part of a community that exists now
Well,
to
I love
embrace
how you
flat.
call them. So you call them flatties. I love that. It's so cute. Like,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
energetically, it even feels not shameful or guilty. I mean, it's just like it is what it is, and
yeah,
flaunt it. Be proud. Be feel the life flowing through you. I mean, I don't know. For me, it's like just the energy of it seems so light and healing in a way,
yeah,
and not
yeah.
making fun of it, but just stepping into the power of that and owning it. And so I'm really curious how, the podcast is called the Divine Quotient podcast, and um, part and you and I have talked about what I do and really how I focus on that spirit leads, the mind follows, the body acts.
Mhm.
And in all my years of interviewing different women and and getting to know them, there's almost 99%, I would say, if not 100%, all
Yeah,
attribute their success and their ability to to bounce back better
Mhm.
to their
Mhm.
faith. And so even though there's it didn't matter what their religious background was, they just
Yeah.
believed in something bigger than themselves, which is what I call
Yeah.
spirituality, right? Spirit. And so, what
Mhm.
was it for you, getting the diagnosis, um, that that helped you empower yourself and find the resiliency within you, not to only survive it, but now thrive in the sense that you're using it as a source of power and maybe influence in order to help other people.
Yeah. I mean, you know, when I was initially diagnosed with breast cancer, and I've said this so many times before to several people I've gotten into conversations with, is that breast cancer came into my life to really surface some childhood trauma, and I think as much as we possibly can for quite a large amount of time in our life, we try and avoid difficult conversations or difficult circumstances. And we think that if time just moves by and we can just get in the busyness of life, then we can forget about it. But, breast cancer to me was an invitation to bring up some healing that had probably been waiting for me for a long time. But as we all know, healing only happens when we are open and ready for it. And I think it was about time. And so, I kind of leveraged my platform and my experience with breast cancer to invite people to really realize that the most difficult circumstances, the most outrageous diagnosis can help propel you into the person that God created you to be. And I was having a conversation earlier with someone, and breast cancer is not something that crippled me. I didn't allow it to cripple me. Um, when people are seeking their purpose in life, um, purpose is actually in the brokenness. Purpose is found in the most difficult circumstances. And I think what people don't realize is that those are actually steps that we can take. That step up, you know, comes from the most painful situations. And a lot of people want to kind of take those moments where they know we are the most vulnerable and kind of highlight those as crippling moments. And it's like, oh, because you went through this, you'll need this, you need this. But it's like, no, because I went through this, that's actually a step up. You know, I don't want people to feel like the world and the vultures can come and take advantage of you because you are that vulnerable person. Oh, poor you, you went through that. You know, I want to change that mindset so that those places and spaces where we have gone through difficulty and when we have gone through challenges or where we have been hurt, those are not places that people can come and take advantage of in
Right.
that way to serve their purpose. I think we can take advantage of it ourselves and be like, there's something in it for me. I'm just getting goosebumps as I say that because it's a very different perspective on how to look at those types of difficult situations. It's a very different mindset and a
Mhm.
very different relationship that you end up developing with that diagnosis, which is what I did. Developed a very different relationship with cancer, with breast cancer, and the name of the breast cancer as well.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think you said it so beautifully in the sense that I really believe, and I'm an avid teacher and learner of A Course in Miracles, and I love
Mhm.
what it teaches is that everything is always calling out for love. Love is always the answer. And
Yeah,
so in the midst of the darkness of
yeah,
whatever it is that we're facing, the trials, the tribulations, everything is calling out for love.
mhm,
And and although it may look different in the way love shows up for
mhm,
us, but it's always calling for love
mhm.
in every situation. And we're always asked to provide love,
Yeah,
the asking and receiving. So we're asking for love and we're also receiving it and giving it in our own unique way when we come in contact with someone who is suffering in pain and suffering, to be able to ask ourselves, how can I be love in this
Yeah.
moment in time to for this person. And sometimes it, from the spirit mind body alignment, we're called to be or say something, and then sometimes we're not. And
Yeah.
so I'm curious, as to your journey, who was love for you in
Mm.
those dark moments? Who or what, you know, showed up for you in those moments? Because there's darkness, right? I've been there in the pits of
Yeah.
hell, it feels like. And
Yeah.
the only way that I have found my way out is when someone has reached out, or I have found the light within myself, which is even more
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah.
Um, to know that I am the key to get
Yeah.
out of my own hell that I have partially created here, and I am creating with my thoughts and the way that I'm seeing myself. Um, because now I'm seeing myself as a victim,
Yeah.
perhaps, you know,
Yeah.
instead
Yeah.
of the child of God that I believe I am, and that I always have
Yeah.
access to something greater than myself. So, what was it for you, or who was it for you that kind of helped you, um, really build up your resiliency and love yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, to put it simply, and I'm not married to this word in particular, right? But for the sake of argument and simplicity, I would say God, right? And I don't think that, so I was diagnosed in 2020, and this journey of spirituality started for me in back in 2015. So you can say at that point it was like 5 years later. But during those 5 years, what had become this beautiful exploratory, curious journey about who and what God was. And then you want to call it God, spirit, the universe, whatever that is, right? And just everybody has their own term or their word for that. Something higher than ourselves, something bigger than ourselves, is what was such a big part of that 5 year journey. And so I feel like, and I refer to this as kind of like this spiritual belt, right? This belt that I wear moving every day, every moment of my life. And sometimes, the humanist kicks in, right? And so I forget that I have that tool belt on me. And that's fair, and to hold compassion for that. But by and large, holding and carrying that spiritual belt that had developed over those 5 years, and now it's 10 years, um, really helped me get through it. And I think that, I needed it so much more in 2020 because the world was going through this pandemic, and everybody was probably challenged spiritually, religiously, whatever, that, that connection with spirit. If you think about, religions and people who uh, feel that connection by going to places of worship and who pray regularly at their places of worship. Well, what happened? Those places were closed. We didn't have access to them. And so, how did we nurture and continue to have that relationship with that with spirit, with God, with our higher self? Ultimately, I mean, I think it's a relationship that we come back inward and have with ourselves, right? Because we're not separate from it. We don't have to go to a mosque or a temple or a church to feel all of that. We come back home to ourselves. And so, that in 2020, um, going for my appointments on my own, it was like this. I had my travel companion, I wasn't allowed to go with a physical person. So my mom couldn't come. She always asked me, can I come? And I'm like, well, they don't let people come, right? They have to limit the number of people in the waiting room, and they have to social distance. So extra people weren't allowed to be part of that experience. But um, yeah, it was God's spirit, the universe. And play a game um, I would play a game with God where I had to really pay close attention to the way God was showing up during those appointments. And I say that there's a big billboard on the other side, and it just like kind of like in a basketball game or whatever, and you just see the points like and so the little nuggets that are left for me to pay attention to and to pick up whether I'm taking a picture of it or whether I'm acknowledging it with a hand wave or whatever, but I'm constantly acknowledging, I see you, I see you. That's how you've shown up. And so that's what it is, and that's what continues to be, you know.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And so the other thing that I want to talk to you about is, being when I think when we finally accept our true identity as being
Hmm.
a divine,
Hmm.
being divine, eternal,
Hmm.
spiritual, energetic being that is
Hmm.
having this beautiful human experience.
Hmm.
And the whole reason we're here is to learn how to return to ourselves, how to remember,
Hmm.
and how to heal those things that are causing us to not believe in our eternal beingness, right? That we
Yeah.
are love, that we are divine love,
Yeah.
and that we're eternal. And I think
Yeah.
for me, the biggest shift came when it really hit me years ago where I can't die. you know
Yeah.
and thinking about the story of Jesus, and thinking about how critical that was, and how we've kind of turned that upside down and focused on his death instead of his resurrection. And when
Mm.
I really, like, the truth of that hit me, the revelation of that hit me, and it really liberated me in a sense, in that I can't fear death. If I do, then
Mhm.
I'm denying my identity
Mhm.
as this divine, eternal child of God.
Mhm.
And we can't live in that sense in the end, right? True faith for
Yeah.
me now is I know that I'm an eternal being. And so fearing anything denies the truth of who I am and what I am. How
Yeah.
has that helped you being an end of life doula, right?
Mm.
And it doesn't mean that I don't have compassion
Mhm.
for people and I don't have love
Mhm.
or empathy for people, but it means that there's a shift that happens, I think, when we embrace the end of life
Yeah.
and can transition maybe just a little bit more joyfully and peacefully, and
Yeah.
also live, actually stop making a living and creating a life while we're actually here.
Mhm.
What do you find when you're, you know, with someone at the end of their life? What have been the biggest aha moments for you in your own life and for them as they share it?
I have this philosophy that we die how we live, right? How you live is how you'll die. So if we continue to live from a place of fear and anxiety, then we will die in fear and anxiety, right? And I feel that our lives, when we're having this human experience, is a continuum of this practice of living and dying, of birth and death, right? And so we're all going to physically leave this world. That's going to be an experience all of us are going to have. Um, but another example of a death that we might experience in our life while we are on this earth is, for example, divorce,
Mm-hmm.
is, for example, loss of jobs, right? Is a breakup, but any type of ending, right? Is a death in itself. So it's almost like we're going through these micro deaths and these micro births. Um, and in that, then, our life is presenting us with opportunities to really navigate those ends and those beginnings, ultimately preparing us for the ultimate death that we will all experience. And through each of those chapters that end in our life, another one begins. And so I have a tattoo actually on my on my neck over here in my neckline, and it says, "In death we awaken."
Mm-hmm.
Because we do ultimately, right? I've been a person who's gone through divorce. I've been let go from jobs. Um, there have been so many different endings and then new beginnings, all of which have prepared me. And so with each of those, I kind of become an observer of how I'm navigating that ending. And not to say that there isn't suffering in the ending. There's suffering in the death. Um, but there's also an opportunity to remain curious about what is this opening a new door into, right? And so, I have seen, to answer your question, patients and family members who struggle deeply before even being by the bedside of someone. I have seen the struggle of people making decisions, for instance, of getting into hospice, right? Getting on hospice for hospice services. And there tends to be a very common thread that patients or family members feel like, if I say yes to hospice, it means I'm giving up, right? And it's just such a mindset of what I call end of life readiness, is we're just not ready to let go, right? And that's like, so for example, you're going through a breakup, just not ready to let go of that person, right? So approaching end of life, which is the ultimate death, we're just not ready to let go of this life, because we can't imagine life without this person. Similarly, we can't imagine life to continue without being here physically, right? And so, you know, cliche lines like, I don't know how to live without you, when
Mhm.
there's a breakup, or somebody's loved one might have passed away. I don't know how to live without you. There's like this feeling that it's the end. Ooh, thank you. I love it when they tickle my from like my thigh to my ankle. And I'm like, all right, thank you. I'm not saying any of this. I'm an open channel, right? So um just
No, but that's so true because the way
yeah.
that I was kind of shown also using the crucifixion, going back to the crucifixion and biblically, it says that every day we're supposed to die
Yeah.
to ourselves and speaking about the ego part of ourselves, the fearful part of ourselves, and to
Hmm.
renew our minds on a daily basis. And I think there's such a beautiful surrender and trust that happens
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
we really let go. And I really believe that love is freedom.
Hmm.
It's not about control, it's not about manipulating to get something, or that somebody
Hmm.
has to lose something. No, it's all gain. And if we can
Yeah.
simply change our perception about whether it's a breakup or relationship or the loss of a loved one, and be able to embrace how that is actually the beauty of life and end of
Yeah.
life that we came for, and that it is
Yeah.
calling out for love. It
Yeah.
is, and it's not denying the pain or
Yeah.
the of not having someone physically to go
Yeah.
through life with. It's actually acknowledging that. And when
Yeah.
we, instead of trying to suppress or ignore the emotions of grief, of losing somebody that you, through divorce, that you
Yeah.
saw the rest of your life with, and
Yeah.
simply saying, I love you and I let you go. That's
Yeah.
real love.
Yeah.
That's real
Yeah.
love. That's divine love. And
Yeah.
something that I have been learning and playing with, and not
Hmm.
only as far as people, but also places and environments,
Oh yeah.
of being able to just surrender and trust. It's like, and feeling into the resonance, what I call
Yeah.
resonance, that alignment,
Yeah.
spirit mind body alignment, where I am today. Who wants to come and play with me?
Yeah.
And then being able to sift through the ones that may not
Hmm.
be, already, or be in the same energetic playground, let's say, um, and being okay with that. Just like
Yeah.
being okay instead of taking it personally too.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
sometimes people get mad at God
Yeah. Yeah.
for not answering prayers in the way
Yeah.
that we want him to, or think,
Yeah.
and don't realize that the whole point of an experience is to actually love ourselves again, find love again,
Yeah. Yeah.
and love in a way that's much more deeper, meaningful, and
Yeah.
healing.
Yeah. You know, there was this scene in this movie with and it just came on my Instagram the other day. Um what's that movie with God? There's a conversation between God and the actor who is, oh gosh, why am I running a blank? But he asks him, like, do you want her back? Um, Jim Carrey, thank you. Jim Carrey and God, played by, what's that actor's name?
Oh, the gosh, I know who you're talking about. I can
I
see,
can see his
yeah,
face like right in front of me. And he's
the
like, do you want
black
her
man
back?
with
And
the
he's like,
freckles, right? The
yes.
yes,
And
yes,
he's like, I just Morgan Freeman, thank you.
yes.
You know, it's like you have to deliver because we're on a time crunch. It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm like, bring it in. Thank you. I think they're laughing right now. Um, but that conversation, like, do you want her back? And he's like, no, I want her to find somebody who loves her the way I do now. And you know, there's moments in our life that we don't have the capacity to love somebody the way we would love to be
Yeah.
loving them because we have our own stuff. But I love how you brought up this playground because, you know, I dated a man a couple years ago, and you know, I literally, if I were to watch myself in a movie, I'm like, oh, she's doing that again, and I know exactly where that's coming from and the reactivity and all of this. Um, and I owned it, and I remember going back and I said, this is what it was about, right? I was like, do you want to come back in the playground and play with me,
Yeah.
right? Because it's constant practice, right? You make a mess and you atone and you go through all of your stuff and you have love and forgiveness and compassion for yourself, which then extends out for when you see other people in their mess to have love and compassion and forgiveness for them. And so we kind of we love others the way we love ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think the more deeply we get to love ourselves in all of our mess and in our bless, we get to love other people like that, right?
Yep.
And so it's such a beautiful reflection of, you know, how we evolve and stuff. But, you know, that's the thing. And if somebody says no, like it's over, you're like, okay, that's okay. But the thing is, knowing that, and
Yeah.
I've had, you know, several experiences, not romantic ones, but just like friendships
Yeah.
too, where I'm back in that situation and I was tempted to react that way again, which has been an autopilot for such a long time because it comes from a place of fear. You're not in alignment with your spirit, mind, and love and all of this, right? And you just, you're like, like, okay. And, you know, sometimes you need that space, but then you're like, oh, I'm never going back to that friendship, or I'm not going to go to that person. And I've come to you, right? I'm like, I'm not going back to that friendship, la, 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 la. And it's taken 6 weeks, for instance, for that relationship to resolve. And I'm here sitting in solitude and creating art. But then, like, okay, do you want to go back? Or you're like, not again. And you come back.
Yeah.
And I tell you, that coming back, when two souls who've had the toughest time with each other come back and can be in that space of love,
Yep.
it is the most profound and most beautiful, sacred thing ever.
Yeah.
Right. And
Absolutely.
so, this friendship with my best friend, I hold dearly in my heart because we hold space for each other. And, but yeah, I mean, the very best of us.
I think a lot, and I know that we have a hard stop, but I think reconciliation is such a
Yeah.
powerful thing. Even like with my ex-husband, the
Yeah.
reconciliation I had with him was so powerful. And it wasn't
Yeah.
a reconciliation of I want you back and I want to be married to you. No,
No.
it was simply friendship. And
Yeah.
it was amazing how we had both grown spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and come back together 10 years later.
Yeah.
And because we both had done the work, and that's a fun playground, is
So fun.
when you can actually still communicate, when you both emotionally matured and can still have a civil conversation, even though there was deep hurt and
Mhm.
and whatever happened, and you can actually leave the past in the past. And I've been able to do
Yeah.
not only with him, but with other people in my past, where
Right.
the past is the past. And forgiveness is
Yeah.
one of the most is the most powerful practice I think that we as humans can actually master in order to bring
Yeah.
us back to a place of peace. And so
Yeah.
I just really want to thank you for being here today and for being an example for me and just a really wonderful new friend as we get to know each other and play together
Yes. Yes.
and find different ways to play and create something really beautiful for the people that we serve. Please tell people how they can get in touch with you. And I know you have an event
Yeah.
coming up this month.
We
Tell
do.
them about
We
that.
do. We have our opening reception for our art, healing heart. It's called the Heart of Resilience. It's an art exhibit, Art on Main in East Dallas. So if you're finding something fun to do, especially Saturday, October the 25th, it starts at 6. It's on Art on Main. You can follow us on Instagram under Flaunt Flat Revolution, and all the details will be there. Or you can also visit our website, flauntflatrevolution.com, and get the information over there. But it's going to be at Art on Main, and please come by and you'll see beautiful pieces of artwork that tell the stories of survivorship and resilience and courage. So, yeah,
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Farhana.
you're
Thank you,
so
everybody.
welcome.
Have an amazing week.
Thank you. You as well. Stay blessed, my friend.